Alright guys, so I know what you're thinking, why is Ollie dressed like Crocodile Dundee today? So it is about 30 degrees outside today, and the seeing conditions are actually forecasted as being really good. I think we've got like 4 or 5, which is supposed to be really good seeing conditions for solar. So as you can see, I've got my solar rig ready, which I've only used it about 2 or 3 times, but this is the first time I've actually had a really good seeing day. So you know, it's the SVBony 102mm Achromat. Got the Daystar Quark in, obviously, and now I also have the I managed to get a second-hand ASI 432, which has those nice big 9 micron pixels. So nice and big when you're using something like the Daystar Quark, which is gonna, you know, multiply your focal length by 4 times here. So I'll be over 2,800 millimeters. So that will be nice to have on as well. I have given it one test with the video that I put out recently, the little time lapse, and it seemed to work really well. And I could definitely notice a difference over the 174, which I was using. Just the resolution on it, because of those big pixels, you didn't get that blockiness. But anyway, the only other thing I've got on here is my battery pack. So all I really need to do is connect that up to my Daystar Quark, put my USB-C cable in the camera, obviously there, and we should be pretty much ready to go. In case you're wondering, this is a coronation cup, actually, Prince Charles. So my brother-in-law sent me this. It says "God Save the King" on it. So I'm having my coffee out of my Prince Charles cup today. Anyway, that's all to be said there. So let's head outside into the sunshine and let's put this telescope on. And then once we've done that, we can go find the sun. Obviously, my mount, I'm going to put it on a HEQ5 Pro, which can easily take a rig this size. And my mount is polar aligned, so it should be relatively straightforward just to go to the sun. And then we'll just take it from there. So let's get it on the mount first. Alright guys, so I'm inside now, and we've got an image up on the screen. So this is I'm actually shooting over the house at the moment, so it's probably not, I'd probably be better off actually shooting in a couple of hours time, actually, because I get radiating heat off of my house. But anyway, I thought we could just use this as an example to go through processing an image quickly, or taking the image, stacking it and processing it really quickly. So I guess the first thing to know is that you're going to need some flat frames. Now let me just take my exposure time on this down a little bit for a second. Alright, so I guess the first thing to say about solar photography that I'm learning so far is it's all really about your histogram, and it's all about the seeing. So I'm using SharpCap to take this. So SharpCap is really good for this type of photography, and everybody that I've seen pretty much is using SharpCap. So what I might do is, because I need to take some flat frames, I have actually already taken some flats and I've got some applied. You can see here where it says apply flat. I've already got some selected, but just so you guys know, there's a couple of ways to do it. Now, I don't know if you're probably not going to be able to see this very well, but you can just use like a little plastic bag and put that over the end of your scope, and that's what I've been tending to do, because then I don't need to refocus again. You can get purpose-made like diffusion panels and stuff like that, and you can just use the surface of the sun and defocus that if you want to as well. And that's actually what I did in just the most recent one of these, just to be quick. So I'll just show you really quickly like how to do that. So like if you were to go to an area of the sun where there's not too much going on basically, and for your flats, let's say if I've got my automatic focuser on, obviously, and I'm gonna go a couple of coarse steps on my focuser to get this image sort of blurred, and another one. So yeah, that'll do now for flats. So blur your image basically, like change your focus until you get a blurred image of the sun, and this is what we're going to use. I might even go one more. So I've gone sort of 3 steps now. Now for your focuser it'll change, but basically that's all I'm doing to capture my flats. Now the other thing to note here is for flats, it's been recommended, what I've seen is you want to go for your gain as 0 just for your flats, and you want to get your histogram, you know, about in the middle. So, you know, something like this will be nice for my flats. Feel free to correct me out there, by the way, if anybody is, but these are the hints and tips that I've picked up so far, but I'm always open to comments. So all right, that looks pretty good. So let's go to capture, and we're going to go capture flat. Yeah, I'll choose 50 flats. And it's already ticked, look here, apply the flat when the capture is complete. So it's going to start applying that flat, that master flat, to my video then. All right, so that's been done. So what I can do now is I need to get back to focus, of course. So I went, now then, which direction did I go in? I think I went positive. So let's go negative. We should see this coming back into focus if I'm going the right way. Or maybe I'm going further out. Okay. Okay, here we go. Nearly there. I was going the wrong way. All right, so we're nearly there, but we're not going to be perfectly in focus yet. So another little trick that I've seen do, and I've seen a few people do this, including Simon Tang, who I highly recommend looking at his videos for processing solar images. He's very good at this. He obviously has been doing it a long time and knows his stuff. But basically, you know, you need some contrast to be able to detect, to be able to get focus. So what I'm going to do is stretch this image like this, and you know, you can even sort of use these histogram bars here to really stretch this in until you get this kind of thing going off. And now you can even zoom in a little bit. So we could go 100% or a bit more even, maybe 125%, whatever you feel. And now I'm just going to use my fine focus to try, and I'm just using basically my eye and fine focus now. And I want things, you know, I want to really use this contrast to really try and see those edges. So now I can see I'm going out again. And if you want, you know, you can change your fine focus again, and I'm going to get it, you know, that's getting pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking that. Yeah, I think that's pretty decent now. So that's a good way, stretching that image then, that's a good way to get your focus happening. So all right, now we actually want to be taking our images. So we want to go back up to that section we had before where we've got those kind of prominences happening and stuff. So first thing I need to do is, remember I put my gain down for this. I'm going to set my gain back. Now I think it's 140 for this camera. I'm using the 432, I think it is. So as in kind of a recommended, you know, gain where you get the noise drop off. So I'm going for 140. You look up, obviously, for your camera. Your mileage will vary, but okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and find that area that we had over here where we could see those prominences happening. I think it was, I'm just going to stretch this. So you can always use your histogram here, you can always use your histogram here just to manipulate your data whilst you're framing up your target. So I'm going to get rid of this one for a second. I'm going to make sure I can see everything on the screen. So this looks a nice little sort of corner to capture here. All right, I think that's looking. All right, guys. So we're ready to take these frames now. We're happy with the histogram. Now just make sure, because I did this a minute ago, just make sure that you've set your output format to SER. That's usually the best video file type for taking these. So I'm going to set that to SER. It's saying 87 frames a second. Let's go start capture sunprom test. Yep, that's fine. And let's go. So this shouldn't take very long. Like if we're taking 87 frames a second, it should not take very long at all. Okay. All right, so that's all good. Now then, let's go and have a look at that file. There's our little SER video file. Okie dokie. Now next thing we can do is let's open up AutoStacker, because we want to now sharpen that image. That's our next step. So I've got AutoStacker 4 here. Actually, that's our AutoStacker 3. Let's find our latest version. I know I've got it here somewhere. I think that's it. Yeah, here we are, AutoStacker 4. I don't really know what's changed. I think I've seen a few options that have changed, but I've not used much of it yet. So what we're going to do is, that's the file that we've just taken. So we can drag that over here. Okay, we don't need that anymore. We don't really need sharp cap anymore, or that. Okay, so all right, so we've got our image here. Now, the only settings that I've got here, so we've opened the image, I've got it set to surface. I've got improved tracking enabled. It says slower but more accurate tracking for jumpy recordings. This does seem jumpy. I've got this crop option enabled here. So all that does is it kind of, you'll notice it'll put like a little red line, so it kind of crops off the edges of the image, which I find is quite useful. Saves you having to sort of crop it afterwards. And what we can do first, let's just click on analyze our image first. And it'll just give us our quality graph. Okay. So you can sort of see, if I go along my quality graph, my better frames, and yeah, getting into my really bad frames down the end here. So, I'll probably take something like 20% of these, or just something so we can do a test with it. So I've got it set to a TIFF file, 20%. Now we're going to need, obviously we've not set any alignment points yet for this image for stacking it. So what will often happen here is that when you do this, if I just zoom out a second, that's not going to work. Now we know we've got these prominences here that we can't see, and your default setting for your brightness here, if I just place a grid for my alignment points, I've got it set to 48 at the moment, which I think is pretty good for this one, this particular image. You can change the alignment points, but you need to make sure that you've got enough alignment points to account for, yeah, just to make sure that your images are stabilized. But basically, one thing you want to notice here is there's no alignment points that have been set in this black space over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my minimum brightness down, because I need to capture these prominences as well. I need to put alignment points on these prominences as well. So I'll bring that down to 5, my minimum brightness, and I'm going to place a P grid again. Now I know it looks like they're just in blank space there, but we know that there's stuff going on in here. So, okay, so how many alignment points we've got? Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now. I mean, I'm only doing one image, so it's not too critical. If you were doing a lot of images for like a time lapse, you might want to bring that. You might want to bring those alignment points down, because you can use, if you've never done it before, you can use Auto Stacker to basically stack a series of those video files if you're looking to produce a time lapse at the end of it. But for the now, we're just doing this one. So 20%. I've got my alignment points, I've got them where I want them, and I'm going to stack. So just looking at my histogram while this is happening, you can see this little peak up here in the corner. That is my prominences. That's the data relating to my prominences, and the rest of it is more the surface data. All right, so that is done. So we should now have a stacked image in our folder. So if we go to Sun Prominence, we've got a new directory here, and this is our stacked image. Okay, doesn't look that special yet, but we've not done any sharpening or anything to it yet. So for now, let's close down Auto Stacker because we've done with that. Now the next program that we need Imppg. Now this is a free program, and it is great for working on these kind of images. So let me just, whoops, you can either open it inside or you can drag and drop. I'm just going to drag it across. Okay, that's all good. Let's maximize this. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now basically that square box is showing us what we're applying these settings on the left to. So these sharpening and deconvolution settings on the left, this box that we draw here, that's applying them to that box. So what I normally do is I just select the whole image. It's just this little box up in the corner here, this little icon, select and process the whole image. As you would expect, it selects and processes the whole image. And you can actually see already it's making quite a big difference. So the problem is at the moment we can't see any prominences. So if we just select our, now this is where you have to, this is where you'll spend a lot of time just playing with this program, right? You can do this there's a bunch of different ways to do this, and I'm still learning myself, but it's all about this histogram here. So like I said, we know that we've got some data, some prominence data up in here. So let's start to have a look around. You can see that data coming through there. You can kind of see it there. And yeah, like I said, there's so many different ways of doing this. So you know, you might sort of do it this way. And how it depends, you know, how contrasty you want it, really depends on, just really depends on the type of image that you like, whether you want to invert the image or try and process it like this. I personally find sometimes it's quite difficult to do this. Personally, I've found it's a little bit difficult to do it in this fashion. Like I can see the prominences sort of coming out here, but I'm really not. I really find that. Oh, that's not too bad. But you can also, if I just reset everything here, if you find it better, you can also invert the image, and sometimes it can be easier playing with it like this, or you can just choose just to bring out the prominences and sort of forget about the rest of the data, depending on what you're interested in. One good way that I have found here is if I reset this, and this was a way that I learned from Simon, from Mr. Simon Tang again. I quite liked it because one of the problems is for me was getting the sky black as well as bringing out the prominences. So one way that you can do this is you can bring this slider across here. So now you see we've got our surface nice. We've got our surface looking nice, but we also obviously can't see our prominences yet. However, what we can start to do now is we can now start to play with these points and see where we can start to bring some of these out. Again, it's you're gonna have to do a lot of playing with this to work out where is the most natural way to bring these out. You often find you get one thing looking nice, but then maybe you lose another. Maybe we need to, yeah, you can really see how this is a bit of a game. And like I said, I'm fairly new to this, so I'm still learning. All right, guys, I think just for the sake of this one, I'm going to stop this particular edit here. I've sort of got a nice effect going there where I can really see the prominences out there. Like I said, there's a gazillion and one ways to do this, but this is just one of them. So beyond this point, of course, you're just using these sliders up the top here. So this is your deconvolution slider, and then you've got these sharpening tools here. So you've got like a sigma and then an amount. So you really just have to play with these and see. It's very easy to overcook your image. So this is really just where I think a lot of personal preference sort of comes into this. You can even use it the other way around, so you can sort of soften the image up. I actually prefer it sometimes when it's a bit almost sort of softened. So yeah, this is really all personal preference. Just for the sake of this. We could just leave it, somewhere like around here. Save this file. All right, guys. So this is of course looking at that file now in Photoshop. Now from here, of course, we can do all sorts of things. I'll probably just start off by maybe duplicating that layer, just so. Probably the first thing you might want to do is just go into Camera Raw and see if there's anything you want to do in here. So you might just you can play around with texture or dehazing. That can sort of sometimes help just bring a bit of contrast in there. If we look at the two versions, you can see how we've just built in that bit more contrast. And then you can also put in a bit of noise reduction here as well if you want to at this stage. Again, it's, you can't put too much in or you kind of basically undoing the work you've just done, but this is something to play around with. And you might even want to play around with things like PixInsight tools for this as well, which I've not really played with yet. All right, so the other thing that you can do here, I'm just going to now duplicate this layer. What's the shortcut key for duplicate layer? Is if we go to other and we go to high pass. This is something that I've seen done. So I've seen this one done, and I've also seen people using the emboss feature. But I put that to there, and then I put 2 pixels on that. Okay, so now obviously I've got that layer on top of this layer. And then if I change this layer to be soft light, I don't know if you can see this, but it sort of helps with sharpening my image a little bit. And if how clear that is on the screen, but that just helps with sharpening things up a little bit. So that's actually, I mean, if I zoom it out, I'm on a pretty high res screen here, but that would actually be 100% size of the image. It's only what is this image? It's like 1580 by 1070 pixels, basically. So another thing that I can do now, I need to actually convert this into a, I do need to convert this into an RGB mode so we can actually work on it. So what I might do, I might just take that image at this stage. Let's just copy that image. Let's just create a new image. Let's change the mode to RGB color. Yep, I can flatten for this. And then let's put in a curves adjustment layer on this. And now we can just put a bit of color in. So a bit of red. Pull back on a bit of blue. So look, I mean, these are all things that obviously I've played with it a bit here. These are all things that you just make. These are all things that you can just make to your own taste, guys. You know, I kind of like that. I don't know, I kind of like that goldeny look there. And then if you want to, you might want to also, again, you might want to go back to Camera Raw. You can see my background's not the best here on this particular image. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, I always forget the shortcut keys here. So let's just put that in there. Now, that's kind of what we've got at the moment. So we might be able to just do a bit more playing around with the contrast and stuff. You know, we might be able to just bring the shadows in here. Just because I've got, so you'll notice I've got some noise here happening. You can obviously put a lot more noise reduction on, like this. You know, you can, if you want to make it a really smoother looking image, you can put a lot more noise reduction, which gets rid of a lot of the noise out of here. But it just depends. I think these things are where you just, you know, you just do it to your own taste, basically. But anyway, that's a quick look at an image from start to finish. I hope it helps a little bit for anybody like me who's getting into solar. I think they're the main tools, you know, capturing your image, making sure you get everything in the histogram, so don't overexpose anything, just rely on your histogram. Get your flat frames, obviously, whether you want to defocus or whether you want to use a bag or a whatever over the front to diffuse the light. You know, once you've done that, take it into Auto Stacker. Make sure you use your minimum brightness level if you're including prominences on the outside like this, as well as the surface, to get those alignment points. Then obviously stack your image, bring it into the Imppg program, use whatever technique you want, whether it's inverted image or whether it's kind of similar to the one that I showed. And then finally bring it into Photoshop, and you can play around putting layers on it to sharpen it. You can play around with noise reduction. You can put the colors on whatever way you particularly like. And you can then take it, you know, if you want to, you can even take it into PixInsight. And there's a lot of variation on this. So, all right, guys, and with that, I think we'll leave it there. I hope you got something out of that. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.